I was working at a train station in Brussels. An American tourist came up to the information desk. He started speaking to me in English at speed. He didn't even pause to see if I understood. When I responded in French to let him know I'd need a moment to switch languages, he got frustrated. He said louder and slower, "I need the train, Paris," as if volume and pace were the issue here. When my colleague came over and helped him in English, he shook his head and muttered, "Finally, someone professional, who speaks normal." My sister works at a hotel in Tokyo. An American guest called the front desk at 2 in the morning, angry that TV channels were all Japanese. He demanded to speak to a manager right away. He said, "This is unacceptable. I'm paying good money for this room, can't understand anything on TV. You need to switch all channels to English immediately. What kind of international hotel doesn't have American channels?" My sister had to explain he was in Japan. Japanese channels were, in fact, the default there. He hung up, clearly unconvinced. I was touring the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona with a group when an American woman interrupted the guide. The guide was speaking Spanish mid-sentence at the time. She tapped him on shoulder and said to him, "Excuse me, can you do this tour in English? I can't understand what you're saying, I paid for this." The guide politely explained this was the Spanish language tour, and English tours were available at different times today. She rolled her eyes and said, "Well, that's a terrible business model. You're losing customers by not just doing everything in English. That's what real professionals do." A friend of mine manages a small cafe Reykjavik. An American couple came in and started ordering English, which was fine, but when barista responded with accent, the husband interrupted and said, "Sorry, do you speak English? Real English?" The barista, who is fluent in 4 languages, said yes. The man then proceeded to repeat his order using exaggerated hand gestures and pointing, as if the barista were a toddler. His wife nodded approvingly and said, "See, honey, sometimes you have to be patient with people who are still learning." I worked at a museum in Amsterdam last year. An American tourist asked me where the English version of an exhibit plaque was located in the museum. I told him it was a Dutch museum, so the primary language was Dutch, but there were English audio guides available for rent. He looked at me like I'd said something offensive. He replied, "But everyone speaks English. Why would you waste time writing everything in Dutch when you could just use the universal language?" I didn't have the heart to tell him that Dutch people speak Dutch. My cousin is a tour guide in Marrakesh, Morocco. He was leading a group through the Medina when an American tourist stopped him and said out loud, "Hey, why are all these signs in Arabic here? How are people supposed to read them at all?" My cousin, standing in Morocco, in North Africa, explained. He said that Arabic is the official language here. The tourist shook his head in disbelief and said, "Yeah, but everyone knows English is easier to understand. It just makes more sense to use it for signs. It's more efficient for tourists like me here." An American student joined my university class in Seoul. On her first day, she raised her hand and asked the professor, "Will the lectures be in English? Or will I need to get them translated later?" The professor, a bit confused, said this was a Korean university and lectures were in Korean unless stated. She looked genuinely shocked and said, "But how are international students supposed to learn if you don't teach in English? That's like the whole point of being international." She transferred out within a week of arrival. I was working as a translator at a conference in Sao Paulo. An American executive stood up during a panel and started his presentation in English without asking if anyone needed translation services at all. Halfway through, an attendee raised their hand and asked, in Portuguese, if there would be translation provided today. The American looked annoyed and said into the microphone, "If you can't understand English, maybe you shouldn't be at an international business conference like this one today. This is the language of global commerce, folks. Time to get with the program." A colleague of mine works at a government office in Athens. An American expat came in to handle some paperwork and was upset all the forms were in Greek. He raised his voice and said loudly, "This is ridiculous. How am I supposed to fill this out? You guys are part of the European Union here. You should have everything in English by now already. That's the whole point of the EU, right? One language for everyone?" The clerk just handed him a phone number for a translation service available nearby. I was on a train from Zurich to Milan. An American sitting across from me was trying to ask the conductor a question, but the conductor only spoke Italian and German fluently at the time. The American got increasingly frustrated and finally said loudly, "What kind of train doesn't have English-speaking staff here? This is a major international route. In America, everyone who works in transportation speaks English. It's a basic job requirement." The conductor just smiled politely and moved on. My friend works at a pharmacy in Prague City. An American tourist came in, stood at the counter, and started describing his symptoms in English, very slowly and loudly. When the pharmacist responded in Czech language, the American sighed dramatically and said, "Okay, let me try this again. Do you have medicine for headache?" He mimed holding his head in pain. The pharmacist, who understood perfectly the first time, replied in English, "Yes, sir. Aisle 3. The American looked relieved and said out loud, "Oh, thank God you speak English. You should have just said that from the start here." I was bartending in Dublin when an American tourist leaned over the bar and said to me directly, "Hey, do you guys speak English here, or is it all that Gaelic stuff?" I stared at him and said, "You're in Ireland. We speak English here." He nodded, satisfied, and said, "Okay, cool, just checking. I heard you guys had your own language and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to order a drink. Good to know you're keeping it simple." An American exchange student in my class in Copenhagen complained to the administration that too many students were speaking Danish during group projects in the classroom. She said, "It's really excluding and makes it hard for me to participate. Everyone should just speak English when I'm around so I don't feel left out. It's only fair since English is the main language. Anyway." The administration told her she was welcome to learn Danish. She did not take that well at all. I work at a car rental agency in Lisbon. An American customer got frustrated trying to read the rental contract, which was in Portuguese language today. He slammed the paper on the desk and said, "Why isn't this in English? I shouldn't have to translate a legal document. This is a scam. You're trying to trick me into signing something I can't understand at all here." I offered him the English version, which we had the entire time. He snatched it and said angrily, "You should have given me this first. That's just common sense." My brother is a taxi driver in Istanbul, Turkey. He picked up an American tourist from the airport, who immediately started giving directions in English, assuming my brother would understand. When my brother politely said he didn't speak much English, tourists got visibly annoyed here. He said, "How are you a taxi driver in a major city and you don't speak English? That's like not knowing how to drive a car. It's part of the job, man." My brother drove him to his hotel in silence. I was hiking in the Swiss Alps when I came across an American couple arguing with a mountain hut owner there. They wanted to order food but were upset that the menu was only in German. and French. The husband said, "This is insane. You're on a major hiking route. You get tourists from all over the world here. You need an English menu. It's not that hard. We have those in America for everyone to read." The owner just shrugged and pointed at the pictures on the menu. A friend of mine works at a hospital Oslo. An American patient came into the emergency room and started explaining his injury in English, which was fine. But then he got upset when the intake forms were in Norwegian. He refused to fill them out. He said, "I'm not signing anything I can't read. In America, all medical forms are in English because that's the safe and logical thing to do. This is a huge liability issue." A nurse eventually helped him translate it, but he complained the entire time. I was attending a wedding in Bali last month. An American guest got lost trying to find the venue and stopped to ask locals for directions today. When they didn't understand his English, he got frustrated and said to another guest, "How does anyone get around here if nobody speaks English? It's like they're not even trying at all here. In tourist areas, speaking English should be mandatory here. It's just good business sense." My aunt runs a small bookstore in Vienna, Austria. An American tourist came in and asked her directly, "Do you have any books in English language here?" She said yes and pointed to a small section in the back. He looked disappointed and said sadly, "That's it. You should have way more English books. That's what people actually want to read these days. These German books are just taking up space here. You'd make way more money if you switched your inventory." My aunt, who has run a successful bookstore for 20 years, just smiled and nodded politely. I was working at a ski resort in Alps. An American guest called the front desk angry that the safety instructions on the ski lifts were French. He said, "What if there's an emergency and I can't read the signs? This is a serious safety violation." In America, we make sure everyone can understand critical information. You guys are putting lives at risk by not having everything in English. The signs also had pictures, which are universal, but he didn't seem to notice. A colleague works at a law firm in Brussels. An American client came in for a meeting and was upset that some documents were in French language. He said, "I thought this was an international law firm. Why aren't all your documents in English language? How am I supposed to do business here? If I have to hire a translator every time? This is highly inefficient. You guys need to standardize everything." The lawyer reminded him that he was in Belgium, where French is an official language here today. I was on a bus in Krakow when an American tourist tried to buy a ticket from the driver using English. The driver didn't understand and pointed to the ticket machine. The American, frustrated, said loudly to the other passengers, "Does anyone here speak English?" A teenager helped him, and afterward, the American said, "Thank you. It's crazy that the bus driver doesn't speak English. That should be a requirement for public transport." The teenager just walked away without responding further. My friend is a lifeguard at beach in Sardinia. An American family came up to him speaking rapidly in English about water safety regulations and concerns today. When he responded in Italian, the father got annoyed and said, "Seriously? You're a lifeguard and don't speak English? What if there's an emergency? How are you supposed to save someone if you can't communicate? This is a major oversight by whoever hired you." The lifeguard, who saves lives regularly here, just pointed to the flag system, which is color and universal. I work at a train ticket office in Budapest. An American traveler came to the window and started asking about routes, schedules, and prices, all in English, speaking very quickly. When I asked him to slow down because I needed to switch languages mentally here, he said, Oh, come on, it's not that hard. English is literally the easiest language to understand globally. Just focus. He then repeated everything at the same speed but louder. An American tourist in my hostel in Hanoi complained to the front desk that street signs outside were confusing. He said, "How is anyone supposed to navigate if the signs aren't in English? It's like you guys don't want tourists here. In America, we have signs in multiple languages. In big cities because we actually care about visitors." The receptionist pointed out that he was in Vietnam, and Vietnamese was the official language here today. I was working at an art gallery in Florence. An American visitor asked if we had English descriptions for the paintings. I said we had brochures available. He scoffed and said, "Brochures? That's so inconvenient today. You should just put English labels next to everything. Why make people carry around a booklet like that? It's bad design. Whoever runs this place doesn't understand user experience." He was standing in a Renaissance gallery that predates the concept of user experience by centuries. My sister is a flight attendant for Scandinavian Airline. An American passenger got upset during the safety announcement because it was first delivered in Norwegian language today. He pressed the call button and said to her, "Excuse me, can you do that in English language?" I didn't understand a word. My sister explained that they always do it in Norwegian first, then English, and she would repeat it. Momentarily, he shook his head and said to her, "That's backwards. You should do English first since it's the main one. Just a suggestion for your boss." I was at a restaurant in Hanoi last week. An American diner received a menu entirely in Vietnamese. He waved it at the waiter and said directly, "Do you have this in English? Or at least pictures?" The waiter brought an English menu right away. The American then said, "See, you had it the whole time. Why didn't you just give me this one first? It would save everyone a lot of trouble if you just used English menus as the default. Just trying to help you out here today." A friend of mine works at a historic site in Cairo. An American tourist asked him a detailed question about Egyptian history, entirely in English, without even a greeting first. When my friend responded in Arabic to clarify what he was asking, tourist interrupted sharply. He said, "English, man. English. I don't speak Arabic. Why would I learn Arabic? Just answer the question in English." My friend switched languages and answered him. The tourist didn't even say thank you at all. I was at a train station in Osaka, Japan. An American was arguing with a ticket agent, insisting that his rail pass wasn't working properly at all. The agent was trying to explain the issue in broken English, but the American kept cutting him off. He kept saying, "Just speak clearly. Use simple words. I can't understand your accent." Another agent came over, fluent in English, and solved the problem in 30 seconds. The American said, "Finally. That's who should have been helping me from the start. Customer service basics."